Welcome to another episode of Come Together. Joel, we're live. Take your time with your drink. I got my coffee over here, got some water, some seltzer. I'm really looking forward to this, man. I'm really looking forward for a number of reasons. But number one is because I'm a music junkie and a movie junkie, and you exist right at the intersection between those worlds, which I'm really excited about. So you're a music supervisor, or were a music supervisor. You do a lot more than that. Um,
Currently still a music supervisor.
Still a music
Yes,
supervisor, among other things, and you run a company called Creative Control Entertainment.
that is correct.
Can you tell me just briefly, I guess, and then we'll get into it, just about the company and about how you got started with this?
Sure. I started this many decades ago when I started working at Trimark Pictures, which is no longer in existence, but it was the home of everything from Eve's Bayou to the Leprechaun series and Warlock and other fun movies. And so I started in the music department there, and within a year of going into the music department, became the head of the music department and built out their publishing company, built out their record label, and supervised all of the films that went through there, and also oversaw everything from deliverables in terms of music for acquisitions, everything that had to do with music. And then LionsGate acquired Trimark,
Hmm.
and in the process acquired me, and I became the head of music for Lionsgate and did the same activity there, where I supervised almost every single title, both in film and television, that came through those doors, and started their label, built up their publishing catalog, and ran that department for a good long while. And then in 2006, I decided to go independent and started my own company, Creative Control, which was founded on the idea that I had already, basically been the music department for two, film studios, and I could do the same for independent film studios who didn't have the wherewithal or need the need for a full-time music department.
Hmm.
And so we contract with several companies to do all of their music services, and also at the same time I was starting my own company, and I wanted to explore what more I could do, and we started a live events division where we worked with different, usually Canadian groups like SEMA, Canadian Independent Music Alliance, and their publishing groups, and Factor, and all these great governmental kind of funded entities that were there to support the arts. And my pitch was, you guys have such amazing artists up in Canada. Why don't you engage more with the community that is putting music and film and television in the United States? And so they basically contracted with me to start, I started Canada House and the Canadian Blast Barbecue with them at South by Southwest, and did that for several years as well. So we had a very vibrant kind of live kind of event thing where we would host also like lunchtime events at like Hotel Cafe here in Los Angeles, where we would invite the entire film and television community to come out and see various Canadian artists and meet the label people and the reps and all that stuff. And so that was fun. We did that for years, and we did Canada had us host all of their Grammy events for years, and everywhere from like the House of Blues to other kind of venues. And then I realized that was exhausting, so I was much more my passion was in telling stories with music.
Hmm.
And so I focused much more on like film and television. And early on, you can tell me if I'm just rambling, but
No, I'm loving this. I'm gonna backtrack when you finish, and I'm gonna go back to begin, ask you questions from the beginning. But this is great.
So my first major client, in fact, one of the impetus for me not renewing my contract with Lionsgate and starting my own company was that I met Tyler Perry and worked on his first movie there, which was Diary of a Mad Black Woman, and we hit it off like gangbusters. And he's a totally independent guy, firm believer in doing it yourself, and don't like listen to how other people tell you how it's supposed to be done, but do what your gut says. And so I've been with Tyler for 20 years, ever since his first movie, and I've worked on basically every movie he's ever done, and that's 30 maybe some
Wow.
movies, and all of his television series that he does. And he currently has the biggest studio on the planet, and he
Really?
is, oh yeah, he's got the biggest
Where's it based?
it's in Atlanta.
Hmm.
It's in
Cool.
Atlanta, Tyler Perry Studios. 12 gigantic sound stages, backlot, a scale model replica of the White House. It's like, it's amazing. It's astounding. When the first time people come out there and see it, they're just like, wow, it's 400 acres. He bought an old Civil War era army base
Wow.
and converted it into, like I said, like the biggest studio on the planet as far as I know. So
Incredible.
he's been my main client for the last 20 years. And yeah, and it's been great working with him and working with all the other filmmakers that I continue to have a relationship with.
Wow, it's awesome. It's awesome. And you got into producing a little bit also, right?
Yeah. When I originally started in this industry, I wanted to be a filmmaker, and I started when I was in my teens here in LA, working on music videos. Everything from like being a PA to shooting B-roll to working as assistant director, working in the lighting department, and everything like that.
Yeah.
And so I originally started working at Trimark in their production department, and was kind of encouraged to go into music because there was no opportunities to move up in the production department. So
Mm-hmm.
my first love was making movies,
Right.
And so I spent many decades doing that through the music department.
Mm-hmm.
And I've given like the first starts to a number of huge composers and things like that. But as I was proceeding my career as a music supervisor, I was brought on several films where my role was outsized for just like the music. I was involved in casting. I was involved in helping with the financing, helping with secure distribution, things like that. And so I'm like, I'm producing this in a way. So I started asking for, a producer credit when that kind of a lift and that broad of a scope of work was required of me. And they didn't necessarily have the money to pay me as much as they should. I said, well, make me a producer, make me a participant in this. And so that was like, who was that first? Mario Van Peebles was like one of the first ones who said, "Yeah, you're a producer."
That's a pretty common trade-off from what I've read, right? That if films have a hard time coming up with the money, that they'll offer
Well,
producing or some kind of title so that you can associate and leverage it for another job in the future, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Having a track record as a producer is something that you can have as a precedent and kind of do it. It's unusual for a music supervisor to take on that role, but I was very lucky when I was at Trimark. My boss there, Cami Winikoff, who was head of production, allowed me to sit in all of the meetings that I wanted to. So I sat in marketing meetings, I sat in finance meetings, I sat in acquisitions and distribution meetings and all that kind of stuff, just so I could learn. And that was kind of our trade-off. She allowed me to participate and learn everything from like how to get a picture bonded to how to work with a distribution and P&A spends and things like that. So
Incredible. Yeah, I one of the things that I noticed in your story, and that I feel like I've noticed in a lot of people's stories that kind of run their own businesses or start steering their own ships, is that you're a willingness to kind of put on a lot of hats and like be willing to just learn whatever's out there, and to be so and because I've noticed that recently, or at least in the corporate world, and I don't know if you have this experience, but jobs and responsibilities are very compartmentalized. And whoever does one thing, that's the lane they steer in and stay in. But for you to be able to do what you did, right, which is to branch off eventually on your own, or to even do a job exceeding all expectations at the other companies, you'd have to be willing to go above and beyond, I'd imagine, right?
Yeah, it's completely. It's like you get what you kind of give into it, what you want to participate in. So it's like at my company, I have a couple of music supervisors who work with me, and I basically give them as much responsibility as I have. I'm an open book with them. I let them read all the contracts because I want them to learn how I learned. I want to be able to say, hey, I've got to step away for a little bit to deal with this. You're in charge of all this. And they go, yeah, got it. Because they have that experience. And so, I've had a lot of we have a very strong internship program here where we bring in interns from different universities and give them a very broad kind of like education on how we do this, because in my way of thinking, again, I come from film production to get into music supervision, and it's always been in my kind of view of it, is the proper view, is that I don't work in the music industry. I work in the film industry. So I am an employee of a film, and my responsibility is the department of music. So there is like a camera department, there is an electric department, there's like sets and hair and makeup, and whoever's in charge of that is in charge of everything from budget, schedule, employees, all that kind of stuff. And so when I come onto a movie, I start at the script phase, break it down, do a budget, and do like a plan of how we're going to do it from very start to distribution and marketing and things like that. And so I let the people who come through my shop, including the interns, learn the basics, but then I expose them to whatever they want to go. So they can go to recording sessions, they can go to like the mix stage, they can go to set if it's allowed, and participate in everything we do there. So, and because I want them to be able to get a real good education that they're not going to get at school.
Yeah, definitely. You learn way more from our experiences, I imagine. I feel like, at least for myself, and actually when I was talking to a couple of my buddies of mine, that I was telling them how excited I was for this conversation. I mentioned music supervisor. I got mixed responses as far as questions for, does this music supervisor have to do with the score, like the famous scores from like John Williams or Hans Zimmer, and that's being composed on the spot, or whether it's more of like a Guardians of the Galaxy or Scorsese or Tarantino type of acquiring the rights to different types of songs to be able to play in the film, and so maybe you could shed some clarity as to like what the responsibilities are for a music supervisor if it goes over both.
Yeah, I mean, when it's done right, it's all of that. Because, like I said, it's the boring stuff of like, budget and schedule and legal clearances and everything like that. But it's also, the exciting stuff about trying to find a great composer, setting up interviews, and listening to that and recommending them to a director, putting them together, doing like spotting sessions where we watch the film and say, I think a cue should start here, and I think that this is a big
awesome
action, that it should get a little bit bigger here, and then it should end here, and go through that whole thing with the composer and the director and the producer, and be involved in that. And because I've done close to 300 movies, maybe, I don't even remember now, but it's like I have a good experience and a good instinct for that, and I let and I work with the composers through the whole thing. And at the same time, I'll also be picking songs to place in different places and recommending those to the creative people. We don't ever choose anything necessarily, because that's not our job. Our job is to give options and to fulfill a filmmaker's vision and help them tell their story with music. And so we recommend different songs and stuff, and then it's our job to go after the rights to make sure that we can secure those rights to use it, and then that it comes in budget and all that stuff. So when it's done right, it is all of the above and beyond. Like, you wouldn't even imagine some of the stuff that we have to do that has to do with music. But
can you give me some examples? Some details?
Yeah, I mean,
please.
Sure. Right now, we've got a movie coming up that we're in pre-production on, and it has 23 songs that are all on camera that are written into the script. And so right now I'm securing the rights to use those. I'm looking for somebody who's going to be doing the arrangements on this because that's not my job. I hire the
Hmm.
people who do this. So we're going to have to do arrangements of them, do demo recordings, um, set up sessions with the. We're going to talk to the management for all the actors who are going to be singing these things to make sure we know what their right pitch, their right key is for these things.
Hmm.
Because when we
Wow.
do an arrangement, we have to make sure that it's in the key that they can sing in most easily.
Sure.
Um, and then send it over to them, help them rehearse, hire vocal coaches if we need to, work with the vocal
Wow.
coach and the actors, hire songwriters if there's not a song that's specifically enumerated in the script. So we'll hire a songwriter, give them a brief of what we want, and then work with the songwriter to do a demo of that, and then negotiate those rights. Hire musicians to record a track of these things, get it
You're
to
your
the
own like
actors.
record label essentially. You're your own product.
Well,
You're your
yeah, I mean,
the whole
it
thing.
is this part is like a record label for this movie, right? But
Yeah.
then we have to make sure that we have a pre-record done in time so that if we need to, we can play that back on set and we can pantomime, doing this. But most likely, we're going to have some live performance of this stuff, and so I have to be in touch with the assistant directors' crews to make sure that I'm in touch with the cast and that they
Mhm.
are aware of what we're doing. I have to be in touch with props because we have to make sure that there are functioning instruments. I have to be in touch with hair and makeup. I have to be in touch with casting about setting this up and making sure everybody's properly uh, contracted. And all through it, we have to go through all of the different departments to make sure that we're like set up, ready to go, and everything is there and in place. Then they shoot it, and then we take that and we off to the races in post production. So
It's crazy. And how much of this do you have as I mean, I'm sure by now it's already cut down to a science, but when you were starting, how much of the no, it's not?
you make it up. It's different every time because you don't know who you're going to be necessarily working with and what their capabilities are, and what it's going to entail on for me and my crew. Um, and every movie is different. So it's like I have, best practices of how it's supposed to go. But again, we adapt how we do it based on the situation at hand. So
So you have to be really flexible. You have to be able to fly by the seat of your pants if, something comes up and
always.
you just got to have how much of this is contacts versus experience? Like, okay, I need someone to call that knows how to deal with this, or oh, I've dealt with
I mean,
this
they're one
already.
and the same. They're one and the same.
Yeah.
That experience that I have of how to execute something like this is also the experience that I have of who, because I can't do any of it.
Hmm.
So it's like my experience is like, oh, I know exactly who to call on that one, and then
Right.
rely on their experience. Um, so it's all one and the same. It's like I've been doing this for long enough so that I have deep contacts, and deep resources, and if I don't know, then I know who to call to who will know somebody who can do something.
Right.
So
Right.
and
Right.
I
Right.
rely on my team a lot to be able to handle a lot of this stuff, and yeah.
Awesome. And who were some what were some inspirational movies or some inspirational directors, actors, people in the industry that got you, started in it that wanted you down this path, started you down this path because and it sounds like you started early enough that you didn't have a ton of commitments that you could have thrown yourself all in, to this. But if one thing I've always wanted, I've always had like my heart in the entertainment world, and it just felt like you have to really throw everything aside for it. Do you feel that's the case?
Sometimes I worked I worked myself very hard to get to a place where I knew this, and I worked long hours, and I actually worked in the legal department as well, and that was at a time when there was no like on computers there wasn't like cut and paste
Hmm.
function, so I
Yeah.
had to retype all of these contracts and stuff like that. And it was
Yeah.
brutal because I was not somebody who's sit in front of a keyboard kind of a person. I was like an on set guy. So I had to really lean into it and learn it and be devoted to it. And, and that's, good or bad. It got me to where I am. I don't have my crew. Um, I don't ask them to devote that kind of time and energy to what they do. I depend on them getting the job done. But
Hmm.
it's like our rule is like, don't call me before 9 a.m. unless it's an emergency, and I
Hmm.
won't call you at all unless it's an emergency. And after 6, I don't want to hear from you unless it's an emergency, and I won't call you unless it's an emergency because I want them to be. I don't want to burn them out,
Yeah, yeah,
and it's
yeah,
very
definitely.
important because this is really hard work. When we're deep into it, it's very much like it's all hands on deck. So like this movie that we've got with the 23 songs, it's a lot of work. And so
Hmm.
and we're like 3 weeks out from production. And so all the pre-production stuff has to go into it. And so then the real hard stuff of being on set happens. And so I want them to not have burned out by the time we get to set.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. It's so fun. It's so funny you say that. I lived in Seattle for a year, and one of my roommates, while I was living there, got a job with Microsoft. And there's a lot of big tech companies around there. And one thing that a lot of young people had that said, in common, or one common theme was that the companies that they work for, Microsoft, Facebook, Airbnb, whatever, they want their employees to be happy, and their hours were generally like what you said, 9 to 5, 9 to 6, pretty flexible. If you have
don't
anything
work on
going
the
on,
weekends if you
take your
don't have
time.
to. Yeah.
Exactly. And he said but when we have projects, we're the best. We're the best at what we do, And
Yeah.
so, so I think that's a good mentality because I grew up in the New York world where it was almost like a matter of like pride, how many hours you worked that week. Oh, I worked
That's the way
70
that's
hours.
the way I was when I started. I was in the office for 10 hours doing this stuff, and they were like, "Oh, cool, I guess."
Yeah, yeah. It's a mentality, and I hear that because I think people equate busyness with productivity. So you're spending X amount of time busy, you must be really really productive. And yeah, starting to work in the starting to do sales, I've learned the opposite. That the amount of time that you spend actually working um, generally does not necessarily correlate with how productive you're being while you're there. That's really really cool. So what what when the TriStar got acquired by Lionsgate,
Trimark.
I'm sh-
Yeah.
I'm sure that was a pretty significant cultural switch in terms of the size of the studio, what you had, the type of management that you had, handholding.
Sort of. Yeah. I mean, Lionsgate was not very big. It was just they had a lot of money and some leadership that was very aggressive. And
Hmm.
so they were actually smaller than than Trimark was in
Oh
terms
yeah.
of staff and production and all that stuff. And they acquired Trimark because of that. They wanted the
Wow.
library, but they also wanted the infrastructure because it was not a huge production house like it is now. Like I
Hmm.
think like American Psycho was one of their big first movies and
Sure.
stuff. Um, and they were not like a hugely productive entity. They were a Canadian company, as a matter of fact, that was mostly about acquisitions and distribution. And they acquired Trimark for the library and for the infrastructure. And so it was a big shift, and it was very nerve wracking. But it's like I'd proven myself at Trimark and what I had built basically single handedly. And so when they came and they were like doing like these nerve wracking kind of interviews about like tell us what you do and what value you
Hmm.
bring to the company kind of stuff. I was like, let's take up a seat, let's go.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and I told them all the stuff that I had built and how about like the revenue that comes from music publishing pays for this and makes sure that this is actually a not just a straight out expense, but it is an investment in what you're going to have as an asset and stuff. And they were like, okay,
Yeah.
let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really cool. Do you ever listen to the podcast The Town with Matt Bellany? It's like a business oriented Hollywood podcast. Half an hour, 2 3 times a week. It's awesome. He's great. But no, not your thing. Well, either way,
No,
one thing.
because like I don't watch the studio,
Oh
because
yes, 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 yes. Right.
because I'm like no, no.
Right. Right. So they stay away from They stay away from their opinions on things. They more report on the business of what's going on. For example, this Leo movie that just opened this weekend. Is it a hit or not? And they discuss the potential down the line business opportunities and okay, well, if it opened to 30, then what does it mean down the run, and what does it mean domestic versus international? So it's cool to be able to explain, because those concepts have didn't mean anything to me, and now the way I consume entertainment is totally different. When I kind of have a little bit more of that concept in my mind, it's really cool. So how does for example, again, Guardians of the Galaxy, and maybe you don't know the answer to this, but I'm sure with your experience you know something about it. That Disney repackages the collection of songs that Guardians put on in the movie, and they sell it on vinyl and on Spotify. They put it on Spotify and everything. Disney makes the money from that, or the original artists some of the money?
So it's like when you have like a soundtrack that is like on Spotify of pre-existing songs.
Mm-hmm.
It's a playlist. It's a playlist.
Okay.
It's almost impossible for them to monetize something like that.
Okay.
Unless they do some sort of a deal with like the artist that says, we're going to put it on this playlist and it's going to boost your sales by this, and we want a participation in it, which they may do. I don't know.
Okay.
But generally speaking, it's a playlist. It's like if I made a playlist and put it out in the world, it's like great,
And I guess that would be incentive for the families, or for the
it's a marketing thing. Yeah,
right.
They may do that, and it's kind of like they may do that, and I don't know. But it is a marketing thing for the most part. Like we have for Beauty in Black, which is a show that I supervise with Leah Avraham, and it's all Netflix puts out a playlist of the songs that we've used in that season,
right?
And then they it's just there. But it's like the audience wants it, so it drives people to go to the playlist and do the show. But we also have a soundtrack that's digital for the show that is the score from Wow Jones and Jimmy James. That is phenomenal. All their score for the show, and that one we do participate in because we own that music. So
right.
When Disney puts out a Guardians of the Galaxy as a mixtape, like a physical, it's just like the old school, compilation album. Sales, or on vinyl, because that's a physical good that you can cut out a royalty to go to these artists, but then the over is going to go to Disney, whoever releases it.
I see. And how difficult is it to kind of get these rights? If I know not very hard most of the time.
To put rights on a record?
No, I'm so sorry. To get rights for songs to use in a film.
Oh, it's totally dependent on billions of factors. There's libraries you can go to where you're like, here's $5, can I use the song? And they were like, yeah, go, please.
Yeah.
Or there's, if you want to go and put AC/DC in your movie.
Yeah.
Get ready to write a check for 7 fucking figures.
Yeah, I heard about that.
There's other artists, it's like they're like, no, not for any circumstance will you be able to use this song unless you are related to one of the people on the record, kind of a thing. It's like, and it depends on the deal that these artists have with the labels, the deal with their publishing companies, who the publishing companies and labels are, their responsiveness. All of these things are factors that which is, one of the skills that we develop. Music supervisors.
Yeah, and I guess that's the value of having an in-house kind of program or an in-house label or record or whatever, because you have your own selection of music to pick from. No,
not really. I mean, we do some of that. I mean, there is no Sony Pictures does not have a special deal with Sony Records.
No, it does not.
No, I mean they can, because they can walk over to their building and be like, let's do this. And they can be like, no, we're a different revenue stream, and we've got to make sure that our, quarterly numbers are this, and we don't care about what your numbers are.
Yeah.
So it's not always that, and it's it's also like anti-monopoly kind of stuff and all that kind
totally.
of thing. So it's,
right.
They used to say that you cannot have the label on the same campus as the film studio, and the publishing company had to be at a different campus as well. Physically could not be at the same place. Those rules are not the same anymore, but that's how kind of firewall they were. Because again, an artist, doesn't want to sign with the label, who's going to go, yeah, you can totally have this song for like $5 because it's going to help
Right.
the bottom line of the film and stuff. Because the artist would be like, what?
Yeah.
That's my money.
Right, but I would imagine if I was the artist, right, and you were a studio, and you said, "Hey, man, I'm Sony, I'm TriStar, I'm Lionsgate, I'm about to put your song in Iron Claw with Zac Efron, right? Uh, I don't have a lot of money budgeted for this, but this could be really big for your career. What do you say about what about getting this on there?
It's not fair, you know? I mean, it's totally cutthroat and a lie, you know?
Yeah,
So I never do that.
you
So
never do that.
we have Beauty and the Black, which is #1 series in Netflix, #1 series on all streamers, right?
Wow.
Huge, huge.
Yeah.
1.3 billion people watched it in a week, or hours were watched in a week. Um, and so we could say, hey, we're gonna make you famous. You're gonna get into this thing, and you should pay us to be in Beauty and Black. But
Right.
the philosophy we have is that music matters and music should have value and should be paid. We don't have a lot of money in Beauty and Black for these licenses, and we use a ton of music. And so we tell them up front, I'm like, well, we've only got this much. And that's what we're paying other people as well. Just so you know, we're not like, just undervaluing you. We're undervaluing everybody.
Right.
And so you can say no. You can just say no and don't want to do it. We're not going to promise you that you're going to have like, this many TikTok, watchers or any of that shit, because we can't control that, and it's a lie to say that
Well,
you
you can't
can.
control it. You definitely can't control it. But I, as an artist, if I was the artist, I would
Well, I would
imagine
let
that.
you. I would let you do that. I'm not going to talk anybody into it.
I
Any
gotcha.
kind of promises like that. If you say, "Oh my God, I love Beauty and Black. I have to be." I mean,
Right.
we did the clearances for several seasons of the game FIFA, right?
Mhm.
And the money they paid for licensing on FIFA is minuscule
Mhm.
compared to like what a big film will pay and all that kind of stuff. But guaranteed, if FIFA calls up one of these artists who's kind of like breaking through and stuff and said we want to put you in FIFA, they are like stoked. They are so
Yeah.
stoked. They're like, oh my God, I'm a FIFA artist now. And it's like it's like bragging rights to the entire world because everybody
Yeah.
plays this, and then they get super excited and they can literally tell everybody they know I'm in FIFA, and it's like
20,
totally makes it happen. People are like, absolutely, absolutely, we'll do the deal, and they'll do it for not very much money, but we do the same deal with everybody, unless it's like a big superstar that we want to do. But they tend to want to go for the up and coming, artists out of Nigeria and stuff. So it's like they want to blow these guys up too. So
It's awesome.
people
It's
make
really
their own
cool.
judgment calls based on this, and anybody who tells you that you should do this because you're going to get famous and we're bigger than anything is a lie, because that could be true, but it should be coming from a place where music has value and you should be paid something fair.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. I was thinking actually more from the artist side than the studio side in that case. That's what
Yeah.
I was asking about. But from the studio side, I totally agree with you in the sense like
Well,
the moral thing to do, I would imagine, or the
yeah,
fair
well, I
thing
mean,
to do.
artists come at me and my people constantly.
I
Please put
bet.
my music in your movie. Please put my music in your movie. Put it in. I love Tyler Perry. I want to be in this thing. Whatever, let's do it. And then I don't make a decision based on somebody's desire to get in a Tyler Perry movie. I make a decision on what's best for the movie and tells the story.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. How different is the gaming world and the television world and the film world from one another when it comes to this kind of to the music
It's
rights and stuff
subtle.
like
It's subtle. I mean, films are obviously much more longer stretch of time that you're able to work on something.
that? Okay.
It's much more of a slower pace, and they tend to, except for like an independent film, they tend to have a little bit bigger budgets. Um, and so you can make decisions. You can watch something, play it back, and going forward and see if it really works and all that kind of stuff. Um, Whereas in television, again, going back to the model of Beauty and Black, we did 16 one-hour episodes
Hmm.
of the first and second season, and we were literally given a week to do 2 episodes.
Wow.
So, and that was 8 weeks, 16 episodes, no time to think. Put the music in, make sure we would pre-clear a lot of stuff too. So
Okay.
just because we didn't have the flexibility of like wanting to put something in and then waiting on, negotiations, we would pre-negotiate, some of these fees and be like, drop it in, let's go.
Right.
And then we tell
Right.
them if it was used or not, and that kind of thing. It was totally different pace. That's an extreme version. Most TV series are going to have a lot more time to be able to do that, but it's still a lot faster than a film. And then games, on the other hand, it is a long time that they are in development on all these things and thinking about these things and be able to play songs and work with score, and it's very much more involved because you have to be have the score be adaptable to like different scenarios, and it changes whenever the player decides that they're going to do something different. Like if all of a sudden they're
Right.
going to pull out a sword and attack something right in the middle of like this beautiful meadow or something like that, you have to go from meadow music to metal music, and be
Wow.
able to seamlessly transition. I made that one up, fine.
Yeah, that's cool. You
Seamlessly
guys, great.
transition between the score as part of the writing process. They have to be able to make it so that the songs don't, or the music doesn't like bump against each other and make the gameplay feel wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
totally.
also, one of the big things about games is it's the only one of those that's not a fixed medium. So whereas like a film, you finish it, you release it, and it's done, right?
Mm-hmm.
TV shows, same thing. Release it,
Mm-hmm.
it's done, right? Games, you can go and like with like FIFA or something like that. If you're playing and some reason like some one of the players that's in one of the teams becomes like a huge superstar, you can go and adapt it and have like downloads that'll like change some of the music and see like
Yeah.
if you want to play this player, here's a modular kind of thing that you can do that this is this player's favorite songs and change it as it goes. So
Yeah. Wow.
uh,
It's bigger projects than I imagine, right? Because you have to have a lot. You have to be able to adapt to. You have to have the potential response to a lot of different scenarios, and they all have to be
it depends.
pre
I mean, that's the
put
thing is
in.
there's like giant games like like uh, like
Even the Mario theme song
Battlefield.
is
Yeah,
classic or whatever. I
yeah.
was
But I
thinking.
mean, like, but then there's also like these portable downloadable games that are
Hmm.
made in somebody's garage, but
Yeah.
it's still like it's a different thing of scope, but the same philosophy on how you craft it.
I see. I see. I see. And which one do you enjoy the most working on?
I like films,
You like films?
honestly. I like films.
Yeah.
It's where I came up, where I grew up, you know.
Yeah, so cool. So you get a script, and in the script, it has all the lines. It's got the dialogue, and then does it usually say in the script, in the scene instructions or whatever it's called, X, Y, and Z song begins to play, or
Sometimes, I mean, like with Tyler Perry, he'll sometimes put in songs in the script, and because
okay,
he is the writer, the director, and the producer, and the star, those will probably stay, right?
yeah,
In other cases, when you're doing that, the writer sells the script, hands it off. It says, the band starts to perform "Stairway to Heaven,"
hmm
and then the producer sees that and goes, "Oh no, they don't. We're not paying for Stairway to Heaven," and so it's gone. It can be written into the script, but again, those are just like that kind of stuff is just a rough guide because when it gets into production, even if somebody's singing "Fly Me to the Moon" in the script, the
hmm
director goes, "I hate that song. I want them to be singing something totally different," and then okay, they're
yeah,
singing something totally different. Or if like it's written in like the end titles roll, and then you hear AC/DC, and then the director's like, no, that's not what I want. I want it to be score, and so now it's score. So it could be written in there, but it doesn't mean that it's totally absolutely set in stone. Like my obligation is to then give recommendations and say if you use Stairway to Heaven, it's going to be seven figures. And if you're
hmm
ready to pay for that, I'll go and secure those rights for you or try.
yeah,
But so that would be in like pre-production, try and get those rights, what it says in the script, and be literal about it, but also be smart and give recommendations saying this is going to be really expensive. Here's some other options. Recommend it if you like Led Zeppelin kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So,
I gotcha. I gotcha.
and
And
I've
how
done
much of
that
it,
before.
what you recommended similar types of by the way, it's kind of fun. I feel like it's like sharing a song with a friend and like, oh yeah, if you like this, I'll turn you on to that, you know?
That's our job. It's like, who's the cheap version of this?
It's really cool.
You know,
And by the way, there are a lot of them out there. I've noticed, at least. You know, like all my friends, I listen to a lot of different genres of music, and all my friends, and I have like different friends compartmentalized for each genre. And, you know, and each time I'll show them something new, they'll come back with something similar or better within minutes that I've never heard of. And I just can't, it's hard to keep track of everything, you know? I
yep.
mean, it's really, really cool. Um, so, you said that you got into the in-person industry a lot, in-person entertainment a lot, or events rather. I'm sorry,
Oh, the
in-person
live
events,
stuff, the live, yeah.
live stuff. Yes. Um, has that rebounded? Is that industry kind of gone? Is that
No,
back?
not at all. I mean,
What
different.
do you think?
It's different. I think that, with streaming and everything, it being so readily available, and it seems so, it's so cheap to just stream a song and listen to it, that,
Hmm.
live is very vibrant. It's come back in a lot of ways. This is why, like vinyl has come back. It's because
Yeah.
you want something that has value, and an experience is something that's going to have value. A live kind of event and stuff like that. It's not perfect. The industry is not, always going to be like, blowing up, but it is something that is still like, actually, I think it has more value now. And so, people want an experience. They want to hold a physical thing. They don't want to
Hmm.
just be like, oh yeah, that song, here you go, boom, here it is. I mean, like when I grew up, sorry, I used to call up, KXOU was the local college radio station, and
Hmm.
when I was in junior high and high school, we'd stay up until midnight on a Saturday, and Stella on Stray Pop, with Stray Pop, was the DJ then, and she still is, and she would play all the punk rock stuff, and so you could call her. You physically just pick up the phone,
Sure.
call Stella, and be like, Stella, can you play TV Party by Black Flag? And she's like, yeah, sure. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Talk to you later, Joel. And we'd be there with our tape recorder, on play, record, pause. And when comes on, we'd take the pause button off and we'd record it.
It's so
And
much.
that
By
was
the
an
way,
experience. And it was because we didn't have digital. We didn't have things like this. And I couldn't afford to go out and buy all the records. So
I
that's
had
how we did
one
it.
of my buddies from college and my former roommate Sam, who actually he moved with me to Seattle. He's a brewer, but he's also a musician, a beer brewer rather, and he used to run the radio station in Binghamton, upstate New York, for the college. And I'd tune in from wherever I was, you know, whenever it was his hour, and I'd always give him a call, and I'd always, you know, recommend a couple of songs, and he'd always laugh, and and then it would be different time slots, you know. So like one semester when he first started, he had like the 3 to 4, 3 to 5 a.m. slot, and you would be coming back from a party and like we'd just see him getting up and getting ready to get out of walk out of his apartment. And he had a whole room of records, and
Yeah.
I'd ask him about the song. He'd go to the room, and he'd pick out the record, and pop it on. And he invited me to a couple of shows, and I came down, and it's like a music junkie heaven. It's so cool.
Yeah,
It's so
no,
much fun
it's
to be
great.
in those kind of
I
environments.
still listen to KXLU, the Loyola Marymount station, because it's not an algorithm. It's not going to play me what I want to hear. It's going to play
Yeah.
whatever these people play. Like I can't control it, and I'll be experiencing something new. And I listen to KZSC up in Santa Cruz. I listen to that online. I listen to like tons of like college radio stations because I always hear something that I didn't expect or didn't know about or whatever, and it's like I get so much of my inspiration from that still.
I was gonna say, how much? What do you notice about music today versus music while you're growing up? I guess you listened to punk rock growing up,
I
but
listen
what
to
do you
everything, but yeah.
everything? So, what do you think of music
But that was
today?
that was my mainstay. I was a punk kid here in LA, but music today versus it's easier to make, and
Hmm.
so there's like very low threshold to be able to create music now. People just get out their garage band and make it,
Yeah.
but that means that it's just flooded with stuff on online and stuff like that. So it's kind of hard to filter through and kind of find something that's a gem. That's why I listen to like the radio. That's
Hmm.
why like I talk to friends about what it is, so that I don't have to sit there and be flooded with, because I get so many emails every morning. I wake up and literally I've got emails from every single artist that you can imagine of like, listen to this. And by and large, unless it's like personalized to me and they know what I'm working on, I spend my morning just going delete, 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 delete because I don't
Oh
have time to
man,
listen to this
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
I
Of
don't
course
have
you don't.
time. So
Yeah,
it's like I have to just get through and delete all the stuff unless somebody is like, "Oh my God, I love Beauty in Black, and yeah, I know your season 3 is going to come up. This would be great. I'm a Chicago area hip hop artist, and blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Yes, I will listen to that."
right, right. So you got to have some kind of something that makes you stand out and also relevant to the projects you're working on. If you were trying to get your attention.
Yeah,
Yeah,
put my
yeah. That's
name in
a
the email first of all.
sorry.
Don't call me Dear Music Supervisor. Just put my name.
Right. Yeah, I've got a couple of those emails also, like "Dear
Yeah.
Come Together Podcast," and I'm like,
Yes.
my name is all over the website. Like, if you couldn't take
Yeah.
5 minutes to figure out, what my first name is, then
Yeah.
whatever.
The emails that are like, Dear Joel, I really loved episode 106 in Beauty in Black where you used this song and my song was very similar to that. I'm like, oh, okay. Okay. Like,
That's
you
cool.
are so talented, Joel. The music that you put in your shows blows me away every time. It's like you're reading my mind.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm like,
Oh
okay.
yeah. My first
I believe
podcast
you.
that the way I got my first guest on my podcast was sending an email because I actually read his book. A gentleman named Ben Fritz. He wrote a book about Hollywood. He was a Wall Street Journal writer for a while, and my first email I sent him was introduction from a fan and podcast request. And I told him how much I loved his book, and the first thing he said to me was, "Compliments will get you everywhere. Let's have a talk. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about it."
I think that's how you got a hold of me, too.
Yeah, it is. It's the same. I'm thinking. Listen, this is sales, man. I mean,
Yep.
being a one man show, I'm sure
Yep.
is a lot of sales and a lot of relationships and a lot of following up. But that's actually full circle back to the live events kind of thing. I really feel like that's what the value of it, is, and it's hard to kind of put a dollar value on, relationships and networking and stuff like that. And I know that during COVID, a lot of companies felt like, holy cow, look how much money we're saving by not doing corporate dinners or not going to drinks anymore as a
Yeah.
team or not doing this. But then everything kind of felt cold and dead, and like even this. I mean, how much fun would it be if we had, if we were able to sit together with a cup of coffee or a beer in a studio? And I mean, this is great, but ideally, the ideal world, I'd fly you out, have you come down, and sit down with you because that's the ideal
Yes.
experience. We're working on it, man.
Well, I mean, look, I mean, for my company, like when COVID hit, I had, another supervisor working for me and like 3 coordinators and stuff at the time, and we would get together like every day and go over stuff. And then COVID hit, and we were all apart. And I feel like the way I came up too was like, the supervisors and the labels and the publishers would all get together and go
Hmm.
someplace. They would invite us out to see a show, and we'd get together and get to know each other, and that just went out the door. So it's like a lot of the people who were working for me at the time did not get the experience of being able to mix it up with the people that we work with and get to know each other. And I think the industry really suffered because of it. I think that people lost some of the big skills and some of the connections that are important, because my job is so much easier because I'm, work friends with so many people
Yeah.
because I've been doing this so long. It's like, I was an assistant the same time as the CEO for Warner Chappell was an assistant. And so she's a dear friend of mine because we went back and we went to shows together and stuff. And now she's like big mucky muck. And it's the same thing. It's like that's how you make these relationships where I can pick up the phone and get like Dr. Dre's lawyer on the phone because I worked with them like 20 years ago, and so it's like
Hmm.
that relationship. And I always make sure that my interactions with people are honest and no games and friendly and really like say thank you to people, because you never know down the road where you're going to need to pick up the phone and ask for a favor or something like that. And we do
Sure.
it all the time. And it's like the people who work for me are able to do their jobs really well and do clearances and do all that stuff. But if something's going a little bit sideways, like we just had a clearance for something from Tupac, and it was going really slowly, and we weren't getting responses because the estate wasn't taking it seriously and stuff.
Mhm.
And so I got on the phone. I said, "Can you make this a priority?" And they said, "Yeah." And poof, it was done.
By the way, a lot of my problems in business, in life, have been resolved with a phone call instead of an email or a text. So many issues have been resolved by picking up the phone and saying, "What's the
It's a
story?
dead skill.
What
It's a
can I
dead
do?"
skill. Yeah. Like
Yeah. By the way,
it's like,
I also hear it because it's not entirely pleasant to call someone and say, A, I need something, or B, I don't have news that you necessarily want to hear, or maybe I'm bothering you out of the blue, or whatever it is. Like I do understand that level of it, but when when I started in sales, I would like I work with it's a family business. I work with my dad. I used to literally we worked two desks apart from one another, across. And every time my phone would ring with a potential customer, I would run around, give the phone to my dad, and answer the phone for me, and and give it to him. And then eventually, I was like, and eventually, I realized, what's the worst that can happen? I'll just say, I don't know. I'll find out. I'll get your number. I'll call you back. And I started doing that. And then all of a sudden, I realized there's nothing to be afraid of. And it took probably a year for me to really get that skill. So I encourage anyone listening or anyone in general to really work on that. Work
oh,
on
and I'll
that
tell you
skill.
this too, is that, I'm a big fan of fake it till you make it, and say, yes, you can do anything and everything like that. Because that's how I got here. Like I didn't have the skill sets in a lot of ways and to get jobs and stuff. But at the
Hmm.
same time, when I was as the head of music for Trimark, when I was first started, I had a year under my belt of actually doing this industry. And
Yeah.
so I would get on the phone with like the heads of other music departments at big studios and be like, "Can I take it to lunch? Because I don't know what the hell I'm doing, and I would
Yeah.
love to hear how to do this because none of it's online back then
Yeah.
because there wasn't that kind of a thing. This was back when we had to fax requests and stuff.
Sure.
Um, and
High pitched beeps.
but I mean, the relationships that I formed by being honest with these other heads of studios was great because they were like, "Oh yeah, completely. Come on, let's go, and I'll tell you anything you need to do because there's no reason not to." And this community that I'm in is very much like a generous kind of like, it's like if I don't get a gig and I find out that one of my peers got the job that I didn't get, I'd be like, "Oh, good choice. That's actually
Yeah.
great." They're actually wonderful. I think that's actually a better choice than hiring me. So it's kind of like that kind of a community is hard to find, and I'm really grateful for it.
Yeah, yeah, it's really really cool. It's really special. What do you think that the industry has changed so dramatically that you would recommend to someone young and starting out in it that they would follow the kind of path that you did, which was try to get into, you know, a place, wear as many hats as possible, be okay with, taking on more responsibilities than you thought you signed up for, and that'll work out for you? Or what kind of direction do you think people need to take these days to
Um,
kind of make it?
Really, it's so hard to get into the industry. My first instruction is if you're at a university, do internships. That's how you start
Hmm.
meeting everybody and you start learning the craft. And then when it comes time to find a job, take anything.
Take
Take
anything.
anything. Yeah, basically, unless it's like terrible, terrible work and terrible work environment, take anything because you don't know what path you're going to go down to. And once you have a job, it's easier then to find other things, make the connections while you're
Correct.
working, and then find another job. You know what I mean? I'm a big fan of loyalty and sticking with it and everything like that. But with like my people, I'm like, if you're finding that you are like there's opportunities for you, tell me about it first. If you're like looking at like going in studio or something like that and like they're courting you, tell me right off the bat, like number one, be honest with me. Don't surprise me about this stuff because in return, I will give you the best letter of recommendation that you will ever get. And I will say, I love working with this person at my company, but this opportunity of being able to go over to the studio and work for you is something that I cannot tell them not to take. And
Yeah.
I totally support. And that's the exchange that we have is that if they need to go somewhere else and they have a great opportunity, they tell me early and I say, yeah, go. And it's worked out for all of us. And so I've got a lot of people who used to work for me are up in high level positions. So it's like, I don't know that wasn't what you asked, but
No, that is.
oh
It's
no,
what you would
yes, no,
recommend.
take
That
any
is. You're
job, take
correct.
any job. because you don't know where that's going to lead, and it could lead to your. Because I didn't know I was going to be a music supervisor because I didn't know that was a job, but
Yeah.
then I ended up there, and I've been doing it for 30 years. So you just don't know where it's going to take you, and if you are too picky and finicky and think that you should be the head of XYZ right off out of the gates, you're insane. So
Right.
be
Right.
humble, take whatever position you get. Entertainment business is tough. It doesn't always pay the best. And I always say that you either got to be dumb or crazy to want to do it. Most of them are kind of crazy because they love
Yeah.
film, television, music, all that stuff, and that's what they want to do.
Hmm.
And so that's it. Go for it. And if you're dumb, okay, go for it too. You
Good
know,
luck.
good luck.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I always imagined when I said I want to work in Hollywood, I'm like I got to work for Disney, like period. Like that's the company. But as I like started diving into this, I realized that there's tons of small mom and pop businesses that like there's a whole ecosystem of Hollywood or entertainment rather that exists within it of itself, and so.
Yeah.
I thought, yeah, I felt
I don't know anybody that woke up like when they were a kid and were like, I want to be a Foley artist. I want to do footsteps for a living, but it's like a great job. It's really like whenever you go to these sound stages, I take like my interns when they come in, I'm like, we're going to go to the Foley stage because it'll blow you away. We go to the Foley stage and they've got like 90 different kinds of shoes and broccoli and celery to make sounds and like glass to break. And it's like, that's what they do is they make sound effects all day long. And I'm like, that's
So is
so
that stuff
cool.
usually in-house or hired
So
out?
specific.
That kind of stuff.
Um, there's people who are freelance. A lot of it is like at a sound house, like a sound supervisor is going to be like, we'll mix it here and we'll, do all the editing here and we'll do our Foley here and we'll have like Walla, which is like, background people. Like if you're in a restaurant, people are there. Literally, it's like people like in a room going, "How are you doing? I'm doing fine. I am glad to see you." Blah, blah, blah. Like a whole bunch of them all at once doing that, and that's a job.
Yeah.
It's like background Walla, It's like,
Yeah.
and that all takes place under like usually one like sound supervisor is going to do that and take care of all those details, and then I'm the music guy, so I'm the enemy. So
You're the enemy because
so,
you're contrasting their sound.
yes,
That's right.
It's music, dialogue, and effects. Those are the three things that go into a mix, and they're all kind of competing. And of course, I'm like, maybe turn down some of those effects because you can't say turn down the dialogue because dialogue always wins.
I showed my high school class. I teach high school English part time, and one assignment, and one is, yeah. You gotta pause it for a minute.
I think I got to get going. I think I have something backing into this. I didn't know how long this was supposed to be. But...
No problem. No problem. Okay. Well, let's call it here, Joel. Thank you so much.
If you had another question, I have time for a second because they're going to be calling me, and that's when I know I have to jump. But
Okay. So I'll cut that part out. Well, I didn't even think I had a question. I was just going to say that I was showing them the Toy Story, and I was explaining to them. I was showing them the background stuff I was like, everything is CGI. It started with a blank movie screen, and sorry, a blank computer screen. I was like, every shadow that you see, every ripple, every ray of sunshine that's in this shot, you think it's intentional, right? It's put there every single time that you have this background behind me and that light bulb is over there and you see the reflection off the window, like that was
same
black.
thing with sound.
Yeah.
Same thing with sound. It's like you have production sound that's recorded when you shoot it, but almost everything else, including the music, is all created intentionally. And it's like we're on the stage and we're like, a car peels out in the driveway, and you're like, I don't like that. Doesn't sound right. They're like, oh, let me try another one. And you try like all these different cars peeling out.
Cool.
Until you find the right one. Yeah,
Amazing.
Footsteps are all created, Every time it'll blow you away when you watch movies and you're like people like talking off screen is all created because somebody's like, I need somebody to say this, and you're like, okay, here we go, now you got it.
So cool, yeah. And then you hear $200 million budgets, and you're like, what could that possibly go to? And then you think about everything that we're talking about, and you're like, oh, now I see where it all goes to. Makes a ton of sense. Joel, I really appreciate your time.
Yeah,
This is so much fun. This is
absolutely.
such a pleasure. I'm really so happy we got to connect, and thank you so much for the opportunity and for being great. This is awesome conversation. I really appreciate it.
Well, and if you celebrate, which I think you do, have an easy fast.
Thank you very much. I do, and I will. I'll do my best to. At least I'm pretty good at that. And I hope to be in touch. This was really such a pleasure. Thank you so
Yeah,
much, Joel.
absolutely. You reach out anytime. This is
All
fun.
right. Take care. Have a great one.
All right.
Bye bye now.
Bye.
Bye.